everybody, it's Kat from Creative Crafts, and today's DIY is, as you can see, how you can make some angel wings out of paper clay. You want to know exactly how you're going to do this? Like I always say, watch further. So everybody, the list you're going to need of things is, of course, you're going to need the paper clay. I have several different recipes in my video section. I had just recently made a new video on how to make toilet paper clay. You can follow that. You're going to need cardboard, some wood pieces, or some popsicle sticks. I decided to use something thicker and something thinner. Then you're going to need a form or design. You know, you do it yourself or you can look online. There's several different, Google is your friend, like I always say. And figure out that form that you want. Take a pen, mark it, double it, and then the rest of the cardboard that you have, what I did is I cut them all like in these different kind of forms. This is just for a how do you call it? A guide. I put glue these onto here like this as a guide. It's going to be thicker. It may be longer. I may end up making them longer, but I glued all those on. What the paper that I got from here, the extra, I put it on here. I will do the other side also. But like I said, you're gonna need this. You're gonna need a glue gun, and like I said, you're gonna need popsicle sticks. You're going to need some kind of items if you want to make some lines in the clay once you get it fully on here. I do suggest that you do the back very first. And once you do the back, you can glue all this stuff on. I was just going ahead of my time. The best bet is put your things together here. Do the back first. Let it completely harden, that you know it's totally hardened. Then you can twist it and then you can do the front. This is a project that usually will take at least a week or more to do. So I'm hoping that it doesn't take that long because I'm going to the party on Saturday. Not a big party, just a little gathering, a housewarming gathering. And I'm hoping that it's done by then. But try not to make the clay way too thick. Most likely I'm going to make the clay probably at like the thickness of this. Once I glue this on here, I will put the back on, and then when I'm done and it's hardened, I'm going to try to leave the wood part a little bit opened, because you want to add, you know, nail some a hook or something that you want to do so that you can make a hook on there. You can also take some of this wire, triple it, and you know, do this to it, and then triple it by twisting it, and then do the same thing and then twist it again, so then you have your little hook that you need. You can see that? Course, and then you can make your little hook like this. This is just a quick way of doing it. If you do it nice and neatly, I'll probably end up using this now anyway. Make sure you have the ends here where you can put the nail through it, and then once the nail is through it, you know, you could do something like this. There you go. This is what I'm talking about, what you could do. So now let's go to the very first step. Well, the very first step is cutting out the form, which is very easy, explanatory. You can see how you did it. I used some big scissors and some small scissors. It may come out rigidy. Don't worry about that, because once you formally do this really well with the clay, it should be fine. So now let's go to you could basically say the second step. The second step is gluing this thing on here So I'm taking this because of the thing I have up here. And I want to see how I want it, if I want to keep it like this. It's all up to you. You have to make sure that it's, I'm using the edge of the table to make sure that it's totally even how I want it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take hot glue and glue a couple of these sticks on there. So I have my glue gun here. And I'm just going to go across, and then I'm going to go like this. So you're going to go like this. And now once you get that one, I'm going to put 2 pieces, because once you get all the clay on here, what's going to happen is it's going to get heavy. So you're going to need something to help keep the cardboard and the thing without it to bend. I mean, once it's hardened, the clay is rock hard, so you don't have to worry about it. But because it being heavy, this is the best bet so that the hooks can stay on very well. So what you could do is go something like this. I made a huge one, which I have the video also in my video section for a friend of mine. It's probably triple the size of this. It was huge. And that took me at least a month, I think, or more to make. So what I want to do is take this and make sure that it sticks. So now you have this, and what are these for? What I want to do is I'm going to take a precaution, and I'm going to stick some wood sticks here just to make it a little bit more stable. I know I shouldn't have to worry about that because the clay really does harden like rock, and it looks really good. So now that we got this done, wait till that cools. Like I always say, when you're working with a hot glue gun, please be careful, because some glue guns are extremely hot and you can get 3rd-degree burns from it. So please, if you have any dogs or animals or children around, make sure you have it in a place where they cannot get a hold of it. So that is a little warning. So now I'm going to put this aside. I'm in my workroom. My dog's not here. The door is shut, so I don't have to worry about that. Now once that is hardened, I can flatten it out. Well, maybe I'll leave the scissors in there so when I put the glue on it, the clay. So this is the second step, you could say. The second step to this is adding the wood pieces in this. Like I said, this part is pretty much last, because you're going to want to, once that's hardened, you're going to take some nails, put it in here, and then once you put the nails up, you can pick it up like this. I think I'll put it up on this one. It's even better. I will wait until this is a little bit harder. Yeah, it's pretty good. There you go. This is exactly what I'm talking about. So now that we did this, we can go to the 3rd step, which is putting the clay on. But I'm actually want to get nails, and I'm going to nail this in now so that I don't have to worry about it later. So let's get that part. So everybody, I decided to put it on there here anyway. I decided that when I want to put the nails in, what I did is I took the nail and hammered it down, bent it towards downwards, because you know that once it's hanging up, it's going to pull from this direction, and then you know that it's really stable. So now what I'm going to do is take it and use my fingertips and bend it upwards for now. This is to help for when you put the clay over it, that it stays stable. And what I'm going to do is to make it extra stable is I'm just going to add some hot glue here. And then I'm also want to add some glue here on the side to help minimize anything falling out. And make sure you get it on the sides of the wood, because this really sticks really well when it's on from the sides. So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to do here, because I really want to make sure that this is stuck on there well. This is what I do. You don't have to. This is just my little quick tip what you could do. So there we go. And then what I'm going to do is also I'm going to stick it here in between, because any hot glue probably will seep in between here, and that's it. So now I got that done. I don't need the glue gun anymore for now, because like I said before, you're going to need to do the back first, because if you want it, because the front is going to be even more heavier than the back. So what you're going to do is you want to make sure you get this prepared first. And then once everything is on here and it's completely hardened, it may take several days, it may take one day, it all depends on where the area that your workstation is. We have very warm weather the next couple of days. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the curtain up here. So when the sun is in the evening, it'll come and hit it. So it will like get very warm in this room. It already is very warm. It's very warm outside today. And, and this is what you can do. Wait until this cools, totally cools, and then we can start with that. Alright everyone, now what we need to do here is, you got to make sure everything is stable. I did this part here wrong, of course. You need to do all this later, not now. But right now I'm going to put the clay on there. I was, as you can see with my hands, I was kneading it a little bit. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this clay, little pieces of it, flatten it out with my thumb, well, my palm, and start going around this area. Like I said, you need to take it and flatten it out. And make sure when you add it to these areas here, this won't look like this. You're going to put more on it later. Right now, I'm just going to put one coat across the whole thing. And this is how we're going to do it. And then you make sure you squeeze it together everywhere, not just throwing it on there. Take your finger. And flatten it out. And this is how you do it. If you want, you don't have to use this with the paper clay. You can always buy normal clay and do it this way too. The air drying type of clay, I suggest that because you won't be able to put this in the oven. So I would suggest that you get the kind of clay that you can air dry. If you want, you can take a popsicle stick or a stick, and if you want to make it totally flat, you know, so it doesn't have any ridges on it, I suggest that you take this and do it like this. And as you can see, it's coming nice and smooth. And this helps also the pieces that you had just added on to here stick together better. And also spreads it. If you want to spread it better, if you want to spread it this way, you can do it like this too. And this is one way of doing it. When you get to the edges here, what I do suggest is that you just slightly go down on the sides and pat it down on the side. If you want, you can lift it up a little bit and just make sure that it goes over the side, just tap lightly. Even if you, if it still moves a little bit, it's okay because it's not sticking to the paper yet, to the board. But once it moistens it, the board will get moistened. And this is what I'm talking about. So, like you said, you go down here on the sides. And try to make it as even as possible, and then like a knife, make sure you cut any excess paper clay that comes on this side, on this side here. You just want to make sure that you have it just on the side, because when you do the front end, you're going to do it again too. It's going to overlap. So that's one thing you don't have to worry about. When you do these ends here, I suggest that you roll it out like this, and then you see how that looks there? And gently fix this. You may have to lift your hand up on it and then asphyxiate it. And then, like I said before, to the sides, make sure you get it on the sides, because it's very important that you do these sides before I'm going to have to use my hand for now. And that's from the front here, this area. So don't worry about that. And then make sure you don't forget to pat it down so that you know that the clay combines with the clay that's up here already. And then, like I said, go like this, and then make sure you pull it down and touch up the sides. Even if you miss some areas, you can take some clay and add it on there if you want. But I'm going to suggest you to try to take whatever you can off, or because if you don't, what's going to happen is the clay is going to get hard and it's going to be pointy when you turn it around, and you're going to have to take some, I mean, it's okay, you can still take some scissors or, you know, some wire cutters and then cut it down. But this is the way that you do this. There you go. And then you just keep going on until you go to the next part and the next part. keep going until I do this whole thing, this whole area. And like I said, do the sides how I told you. And then when I get to this part, I will videotape how I do it on here, so you know exactly do's and don'ts when it comes to the wing part where the feathers are. And that will be the next step. Hi everybody. So like I said before, I will tape and show you when I'm doing this side. What I did is I just made little, little rolls like this for the areas, and then I put it in where the feathers are supposed to be, where the points are, and then I used my stick. And like I said, you may see that I have some that didn't all the way go down, but that's fine. That's fine. So now what I did is I make sure that exactly on top of the areas where the points are. And now we're going to let that sit. I'm going to do the other side now. And then we're going to wait until this is completely dry, this part. And then we go to the next step, which is the front, which may take longer. It depends on how you work with it. But this is the next step is the other side, but we have to wait for this to dry. Can be from 2 to 3 days. Could be right away. Depends on what method of the clay that you use. So stay tuned for the next step, which is the front side once this is dried. So everybody, as you can see here, I did both sides. They look great. And now we're just going to let this sit and see how long it takes to dry. It shouldn't take that long, but it's better not to move it. Make sure you do this in a place where it's can dry in peace, and that it's not, you don't have to move it. Make sure you do that in a place where there's no movement until it's completely dry. So now after this, we'll just wait until it dries, and then we'll go to the next step, which is the other side, which is the front. Hello everybody. This is now dry. You can see it. It took at least 2 days. And now I'm going to turn it around. And what I have to do is take some hot glue and glue some of the cardboard back onto this area. As you can see, it lifted up. I don't want that, so I'm gonna put some hot glue on it and stick it on there. That's typical because the cardboard must have gotten moist. There's a quick tip I could tell you what you could do is before you do this here, these little pieces on here, you can take some paper mache, cover it with like a newspaper with the paper mache technique, cover it with the newspaper and let it totally dry up. And then when you put the clay on top, that's just an extra step for you. I mean, either way, it's going to give you the same method, because once you get it totally covered up, the cardboard, it's not going to lift up anymore after you put the front on. So I'm going to take some, as you can see here, it's lifting up. Take some glue, hot glue, glue this all back down, check all the sides, make sure I put glue on it where it's lifted in some areas not. And then we'll go to the next step, which is putting these pieces here on here. Like I told you from the last video, this is just a guide, what I did here, because the last time I made these, by the time you reached up here, there's so much clay and so thick, it took much longer to dry. And I decided that to make it less clay, put these on here. So I'll start from the bottom with the clay and then work my way, because I'll have all the areas where I want to put some of the clay on. And this will help me fixate it, so it'll look like a really nice set of pair of wings. So let's get that started. First I'm going to glue this, and then you're going to cut tons of these from the extra cardboard that you have laying around. Cut all these pieces up, and then we're going to glue this on. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in my glue gun, and let it get hot, and I'm going to glue all this up. So everybody, I did both sides now with the paper. Like I said, what you should do, you can lay this any way you want. Like I said, I did it for a guide for me because like the last time that I made the wings, I made a really huge size, and what happened is if they were very heavy, they became like a stone. And that's because, and this pot I had to put so much, it was so thick with the clay that I made. It took over a week to dry, and even then I was hoping maybe, you know, I was worried that the inside, deep inside, would be moldy because it's been wet all this time. But it dried thoroughly, thank God. Because I poked a hole. Well, I took an X-Acto knife and I made a little hole inside just to check to make sure the inside was fully, well, like a little drill, and drilled inside to make sure that that area was totally dry. It was, but it took a long time. I had it next to the heater. I have one here, so I will turn it on once I'm done and have this standing next to this like this, so the heat will go to it and dry it really well. But like I said, you don't want to put clay, if you can't put it in the oven, then it's better to try to fix it so that the wings that you're making are not, the clay is not too thick, because if it gets too thick, what's going to happen is, like I said, it's going to stay too wet. The cardboard's going to become moist and get too wet, and it could cause mold. So this is one suggestion. Another thing you could do is, to help protect this area here, is spray it down with a clear varnish first, and then you can do it. But the problem is when you spray it with clear varnish, certain clays do not stick to it. I'm just doing it like this. The clay is going to be pretty thin. I'm not going to put it too thick. And like you see here, I added some glue all around the edges here, and also some inside between the little holes area. I did some glue in there so that it protects it from any moisture. It wouldn't matter because it'll dry pretty quick. So what I suggest is, when you start doing the wings, I suggest that you start with this end here, these ends first, because of the fact that as you're going up, that's why these are here. As you're going up, you can go up higher, form it the way you want to form. I have here, you know, a little knife that I'm going to be using to make the feather imprints. So now that I'm here, like here, what you're going to do is, I'm going to get my popsicle stick, what I do with that, to smooth it out. And what you're going to do is, you're going to take your popsicle stick or your little knife that you have, and you're going to go towards the sides and towards the back end. Connect it. Make sure that it's totally covered, that you do not see the glue anymore. You can use your fingers too. And like I said before, what you want to do is, you want to take and smooth it out like this. Because if it gets too thick, you have to make sure the whole thing is evenly contribute. I always say that. I can't even get that word correct out. and stick. Stick to my finger. Stick to each other. There we go. So now that we got this part in, double check. If you have any pieces here hanging, don't worry about it. Because after this whole thing dries and there's anything sticking out on the sides or something, you can either take a, you know, one of your little wire cutters or some kind of special scissors. You can cut off any of those extra little pieces of the clay that's on the side. So make sure you got that good and pretty much laid down. Like I said, I'm doing this gently. I'm not pressing. I'm doing this very gently. So there's no cracks on it. So we go to the next area. Like I said before, what I do is I usually squish it down so that's not too thick. And now you want to go to this side. Don't worry about this part here. So now I'm going to do this whole thing, and like I said before, you put the layer on and then you have to keep going up higher and higher and higher. It doesn't have to be totally flat. You know, like if you want to make a feather area now on top of this area, what you want to do is now do this and form a feather on top like this. If you want it flatter, fine, you can do it flatter. Or you can just leave it just flat like this. Do this whole thing and just go up like this. It depends how you want it. If you want to have it like a 3D kind of effect, then I would suggest you add more on top. Or you can just do it like this. Make this totally flat out and then add the leaves, the feathers to yourself like this with the little stick here. So now what I'm going to do is, like I said, when you rub, do not rub too hard. You want to make sure that each clay piece that you keep connecting is connecting to each other and it looks smooth like I just did here. So now I'm going to fill both sides up with the clay, totally cover everything up. And you'll notice when I'm up this area, it looks like it's going up, but it's getting thicker. That's because of what I did here. And that's the reason why I did that. So I didn't have to put so much clay in it. And then I decided to take that piece that I made here, I took it off. I decided I'm just going to leave it totally flat and then make the designs on it throughout the whole thing, which is, it takes less time. But if you want to have it with the 3D effect, like I showed you what you can do, you could do it that way. So let's me finish doing all this up, and then we'll take the next step is making the designs. So everybody, it's totally dried pretty much. You can feel that it's, when it feels damp kind of, then you know it's still kind of wet in the inside. But before I let it all dry, while it was still totally wet when I first put everything on, as you can see here, I added the lines as feathers on it. You can leave it like this and then paint it over. I don't like how it looks. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put that 3D effect like I told you at the beginning of the video. So I'm going to clean all this off, let this dry a couple more, maybe another day or so. And then once it's totally dried, because when you touch it, you can feel. It's weird to say, but when you feel the clay and it feels cold and clammy, you know that somehow inside and it's not completely dried. When you can tell when it's totally dry is when you feel it, it doesn't feel cold. That's the only way I can explain it. So I'm going to let this dry, and I'm going to end up putting the 3D effect on here. I end up taking some, what do you call it? Hole filler for walls. I end up turning it around, and I noticed that there were some areas that didn't cover all the way around. Let me show you. As you can see here, some areas where the clay was laying over, you can still see cracks in between it. So I decided just to go around the whole thing, and so I can smooth it out later with sandpaper. I will definitely add maybe another small layer on top of this after I do the front, because I have a feeling this is not stable enough. Maybe it's because it's still kind of wet, and that's why I think that. But I'm just going to do this. I'm going to let this dry. I'm going to wipe it down with a brush to make sure there's no particles, you know, sticking on it. What you can do is you can get like a brush like this, and before you decide to do the 3D effect, make sure that you have any kind of loose particles that are on there. You get rid of it. And once that you did that, and this is dry, then you can, I will add some cement to this to make it a little bit stronger. It is really good. So it's stable. I'm just wanted to add maybe some more cement or maybe some plaster or whatever to it. It's still kind of moist. You can see there's still like a little bit of water in it. So I'm going to add some of that, but it's still good. So now I'm going to do this, and yeah, and then we're done. I think another week or so, maybe 1 week, this will be totally done. I just like to wait at least a week before I paint. Make sure it's, I'm going to stick it here, you know, close as I can to the heater area. Maybe pull the table out so that it's sticking over a little bit, especially on these ends where it's thicker, so that it totally dries, and then I will switch it so then these ends will go on it. It's very important that you make sure this is completely dry before you do any painting. Another thing is I want to, there you go. There's one thing I want to do is apologize that the video is so long. I have made another video when I made a set of these, a bigger pair, and I had 3 parts to it. And I decided, you know, why don't I just make one long video and get it done and over with. So I just want to apologize for the long video. I hope all the tips and things that I say in between. I did decide, like I said, when I make my videos, I change my mind often when I'm doing stuff. And I decided that I wanted to add that 3D effect here. So it looks like there's feathers on top of here, and then I'm doing it more. And definitely I will show you that when I go to that step. Right now we need to wait for this to dry. So everybody, as you can see, I'm all done with my wings here. What I did is I had to make some more, but this time I used cement with it instead of the other stuff. You can use anything you want as long as it has good substance. So now it's still kind of damp. I have to wait until it's completely dry. You'll tell when it's totally dry when it's like this. And you can see what I did. I did the 3D effect instead of leaving it the way I wanted it, because this looks much better, I think. So I decided to do this, and now I'm waiting for it to completely dry. And then what I will do is turn this around. Of course, sand the back, sand certain areas down, all here on the side. Sand it down so it's nice and smooth. And when that is done, I will paint it, of course, white. And yeah, and then we'll be all done. All right, everybody. I turned this around because the front was pretty much dried. And I wanted to put a little bit more extra plaster, cement, whatever I had to make it a little bit stronger because it was very wobbly. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some sandpaper, and I'm just going to take the sandpaper and I'm just going to smooth out some areas that needs to be smoothed out, so that it be what do you call it? Yeah, sand it down till it's nice and smooth. Once we sand down this side and we paint this side, and this is all done, we'll turn around, and then what I'm going to do is I have to check to make sure everything is okay on the other side, to fix up any little details that need to be fixed, but I doubt it. I think I can just right away paint over it. But this is the only side that I have to sand down, so let's do this. And then we'll go to the next step, which is painting. So now I finished sanding this down, sanding it to make it a little bit smooth. The next step is painting it. And before I painted, I dusted it down and I took a damp cloth and wiped the whole thing. So now it's time to paint. Which I bought some white acrylic paint. That's what I'm going to use for this right now. So I'm going to cover this with white paint. They're mowing the lawn here in our garden area, so that's what you're going to hear for a little bit. Get a paintbrush. And I'm just going to take the paint and I'm going to just pour it onto top of the thing area here, which you see what I'm doing here. And it's gonna need, I'm sure, several coats, but don't make the coats too thick, because if you make it too thick, it'll crack, and you don't want the paint to crack. So what you're gonna do is put it as thin as you can. So I'm done painting it, and now what we're going to do is let this dry. I can already see where it's drying in some areas that it's going to need a second coat. So I'm going to put a second coat and let that dry by a couple of hours, and then I'm going to turn it around. Hey buddy, now we're at the last step, which is painting. So we're going to take our paint and start painting all around this. So just all you're going to do is I'm just going to take the paint and pour it everywhere. my opinion, that is the best way to do it. So everybody, I'm done painting this. I'm going to let it dry and I'm going to paint it again, and then the project is done. And I'm going to use the varnish spray later. But then I'm done with the project. This is how you can make the angel wings out of paper clay. And yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Again, I apologize that it's such a long video. But if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. I would love to see you join my little family here. And yeah, I mean, you can make them smaller. It would take less time to dry if you made them smaller if you wanted. But I made it this size. I wanted to make it perfect for the person I'm making it for. So I hope you enjoyed it. And then I'll see you in my next video. Bye!